Hey YouTube, we are in Eastern Carolina and it is July and we are in blueberry season, and we are an amateur backyard blueberry grower and we have a ton of blueberries right now. We are giving them away. We're making a ton of blueberry cobbler and blueberry crisp and blueberry syrup, and we still have so many blueberries. As you can see right here, we have bags and bags of them, and they're taking up a lot of space in our fridge and a lot of space in our freezer, and we need to do something with them. So today we're going to be cooking them in the Instapot. It'll reduce their size, and trying out two different methods of making some blueberry jelly. So one method that I've already tried is the cornstarch method, and it kind of makes it kind of a runny jelly. But then I got this pectin that was suggested on a different video, and we're going to try to see if the pectin will make it a little bit thicker and make it more like a jelly. And I'm going to be putting them in glass jars and screwing the lid on and letting the heat seal it up. We won't be canning, specifically canning them, but having them sealed up by heat, and I'm just going to put them in the fridge to keep them safe. But maybe in another video we'll do some canning. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. But we're going to be using a recipe, and I'll post that down in the description, and let's get started. Recipes say to use around 2 pounds of blueberries. I think that's about 4 cups of blueberries, so that's, or maybe a little more than 4 cups, but we're going to use about 4.5-ish cups of blueberries. Just pour them right in. 2, 3, and 4 and a little more. And you can see how many I still have, and I probably have maybe 5 more bags of these still in the freezer. So I'm going to be making a lot of blueberry things over the next month or two. And if you have any ideas and suggestions on different things that you can make with blueberries, please put it in the comments. Let me know some good recipes. The next thing we're going to put in is 3/4 cup of sugar. This one is almost empty, but it looks like, nah, I'm just going to dump the rest in there because it was almost empty anyway. That worked out just good, just perfect. And then the last thing to add would be 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Some recipes call for orange juice. I've used orange juice before, but I just like the flavor of the lemon juice a little better. There's some little floaties in my lemon juice, but that's okay. All right, we're going to mix this together and then set our timer. Mix it together good. Spread it around. Put on our lid. Gotta line it up just right. It'll do when you put the lid on, and then when you twist it, it'll do to let you know that the lid is fully on. And we're going to come down here and manual 4. Just 2 minutes, but that doesn't mean it's only cooking for 2 minutes. It takes actually quite a bit of time for it to get all the pressure, which, by the way, make sure that's pointed in the center to the sealing position. And then it says on, but then it won't start counting down until it's fully pressurized. And Instapots are known to be pretty safe. I have my kids here, not worried about it, exploding or anything like that. So we just wait, and in the meantime, we're going to do our cornstarch slurry. So my Instapot now just went to 1 minute. It was at 2 minutes just a minute ago. It probably took 10 minutes or so for it to get to that 2-minute mark for it to pressurize. It made lots of noise and it squirted a little bit, but all that is normal. And now it's time to make our slurry. The timer now says L000. That means it's on low, and it's going to count up now to let me know how many minutes it's just sitting there on low. We want to let it sit there for 10 minutes before we do any kind of depressurization. I'm just going to let it sit there and do a natural pressure release. So over here we have added 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, and now we're going to add 2 tablespoons of just plain water, and we'll mix that up together, get a slurry, and add that to our blueberries. Cornstarch is actually one of those things that can be used as science experiments, because sometimes once you stir it up, it can look like a liquid, but sometimes act like a solid. And so if you're waiting around for the blueberries to be done cooking, because we got to wait until 10 minutes, it can reharden, especially on the bottom. So I just got to stir it up until it kind of looks like milk. But if I leave it alone, I'll let it sit on the countertop, or on the stove in this case, it can get some spots in it as though I'd never even stirred it up. Okay, so I missed it by a minute, but we are going to go ahead and come up here and turn our valve to the vent. I put a little paper towel on top because it can spew some liquid sometimes, more so if you're cooking meat than berries, but I do it anyway. You can see and hear it. It's still pressure in there even though it sat for 11 minutes. There we go. All that pressure comes out. We'll put our cornstarch slurry in there. Just listening for it to stop making noises and for it to click like that. If you heard it, I don't know if it got caught on the video. Okay, so now it's all the way over to venting. No steam's coming out. It's not making venting noises. So we're going to slide it back over. And we heard the noise letting us know that the lid got taken off. Or got twisted and then taken off. And there is our lovely blueberry mix. And now my phone's getting all steamed up. Okay, so I have my cornstarch slurry. Use a wooden spoon, stir it up a little bit. What I'm going to do is come down here and push the saute, but actually turn it off first, and then push the saute button. And the 30 minutes doesn't really matter. We're just going to do it for however long we want to do it. We're going to saute this just until it boils. I've got somebody over here wanting to observe inside the pot, but he's not quite tall enough.
have to get on my tippy toes.
He's got to get on his tippy toes. Don't stick your nose in there too far.
It's deep in there.
Yeah. So if I keep it still, I can just start to see a couple of bubbles.
I see some bubbles too. And I see one.
Oh, yep. There's quite a bit coming on
I see one going popping and then a bubble in at the same exact spot and then popping.
All right, it's starting to saute pretty well. The berries are very soft and well cooked. We're not doing this to cook the berries. We're doing this to make sure the cornstarch gets thoroughly mixed in.
Hey, it smells good. If it was blueberry soup, it would be great.
Okay, so I've turned the Instapot off. I've gotten some protective gloves for my hands because it's very, very hot. And we're going to take the pot out and put it over here on a cooling tray. And we're just going to let it cool for just a short while. We don't want to overcook it. I did that one time and it was okay. But it's best if you don't overcook the berries. Okay, we're back and we've gone from a pot. I have a little bit left over and I put it in a recycled spaghetti sauce glass jar. And I said at the very beginning of the video that this is not a canning video, so I'm not trying to show how to can blueberries, but you can put your sauce into a jar, clean your jar properly to get rid of all of the germs and whatnot, and seal it on there real tight. And once it starts cooling off, you hear that? Once it starts cooling off, just like in the regular canning process, that will seal down in a little bit and seal it as though it kind of was canned. But I'm not going to set this out on countertop or on a shelf and forget about it as though it was shelf stable. I'm going to set this in my refrigerator and it will last a lot longer than if I were to just put it in a plastic container or something. So this will give me a few extra weeks, maybe a month.
Good.
All right, so our cornstarch blueberry recipe being taste tested. Tiny taste test. It's not hot. It won't burn you. Here, taste it.
It's sour, but good.
Well, I like it. It's a tiny bit sour. That's the way I like it. All right, next taste tester.
It tastes like blueberry, unlike the other one. The other one was more sugary.
So it's not too sugary.
But a little sour.
The blueberries are nice and soft. Well, obviously you like it.
Yeah, all of it. No.
And one more taste tester. This one's picky. You said you were gonna taste it.
But I want to feel it. If it was really soft.
Well, come over here. You can feel it. Well, I'll eat it.
It's good.
Yum.
It's good.
Okay, time for the second recipe. And this one should be a little bbit thicker. I'm going to be using pectin this time. And it's going to be a bit of an experiment and trying. We're going to kind of follow a recipe, kind of not. So we'll see how it goes. Anytime you use pectin, you have to use a lot of sugar, and the sugar is part of the canning process and the preserve process, but I'm not really using it as a preserve. I'm not going to be sitting it on a shelf to sit there for months and months and months. I'm going to be putting this in my refrigerator. So I'm hoping I don't have to use as much sugar. And so I'm going to be cutting the sugar down using the same amount of pectin and what the recipe calls for, everything else, and just cutting out the sugar. And we'll see how this experiment goes. First thing we're going to do is add 8 cups of blueberries. And my freezer is literally full of these blueberries. So I had to figure out something to do with them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-ish. Got a little bit left out of this bag. I have a lot left in my freezer. I'm using an Instapot for this as just a way to saute it. I'd already used it for my first recipe, as you can see. It still has some blueberry juice in there. And I didn't want to dirty up a different pan. So I'm not going to pressure cook these. I'm going to saute them as, just use it as a saute and get it all heated up. So I'm going to push my saute button to get it heated up on the bottom. And then my next ingredients will be lemon juice and sugar. Alright, what I have in here is a 1/2 cup of my pectin and 3 cups of sugar, regular white sugar. And what I'm going to add to it is 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. We'll get this all stirred up and add it to our blueberries. Okay, so our blueberries are boiling. They're getting soft. I have not added anything to them, and they're making their own liquid. I used frozen blueberries. They tend to make more liquid than fresh blueberries. This is my cabinet. That's why it's kind of in the way. But I'm going to add my mixture of sugar, pectin, and lemon juice. It is very crumbly, but we're just going to add a little bit at a time and then stir it up, and then add a little bit more and keep stirring and keep letting it return to a boil. Some recipes call to mash the blueberries. But I like the texture of the blueberries in the jam. Keep stirring, keep adding, keep stirring, keep adding. You don't want the blueberries to burn. But you don't want to add it all at one time because then it won't mix right. But I love using the Instapot for so many different things. And I just kept stirring and kept adding, and it has thoroughly mixed in fairly well. You have to leave it here until it boils. And you know, sometimes things can boil, but then you stir it up and then the boil goes away. But we want to let it come to a boil and then stir it up, and it needs to keep boiling. You stir it until the boil doesn't go away. All right, you can see that our blueberries are boiling, thoroughly boiling. If I stir them to try to get rid of that boil, the boil comes right back. Stir it one more time, make sure. So steamy. And the boil comes right back. So I'm going to turn it off. Keep stirring it. We don't want the bottom layer to burn. And the pectin will make this foam on the top. And if you can scrape some of it off, that's what you're supposed to do. But I think I'm going to let it cool off for now. It is off, but I'm going to unplug it just to be on the safe side. I'll let that calm down just a little bit, and then we're going to take it out and put it on our cooling rack to cool for about 10 minutes. Okay, we're back. I have my 1 jar of blueberry jelly that was made with cornstarch. I have the wrong date. It's supposed to be 7/3. And a little sample of it. And the other recipe, I had enough to make all 3 of these jars with a little bit left over. All right. So they have both had time to cool and to settle and to harden up a little bit. This is our cornstarch. I like seeing the berries there. Some people like to puree it or smash them up, but I like having the berries in there. It kind of falls off. It's not super runny. And I'm going to taste just a little bit of it. It's tart. Definitely not too sweet. A lot of texture from the blueberries. Yeah, that's about the best way I could explain this. It doesn't taste like jelly. It's definitely tart. Now, it's not bad. All right, so our other sample. Show how thick it is. Very similar in thickness and consistency. Let's see if that makes it better. The berries are very similar, even though I pressure cooked this one and I sauteed this one. Berries are very similar. All right, so now taste test. Taste testing time. Definitely sweeter. I would say it has more of a blueberry texture. I can tell that it wasn't pressure cooked. I can tell that it wasn't cooked as much. But I still, personally, I like having that in there. I'm going to try it again. It's a little sweeter. And because the ratio of the lemon juice to the blueberries wasn't as high, even though I use more blueberry juice, I use a lot more blueberries. It's not as tart. So there's not as much citric acid in it. So, yeah, I like both of them. I think I might like this one better. And so we'll see. This one, if I push down on it, it doesn't move up and down. Let's test this one. That one still goes up and down. This one. That one goes up and down. And this one. Oh, yeah. That one definitely goes up and down. But I'm going to put all these in the fridge. And eventually they'll be just like this one. I had this one in the fridge for a little bit. But as it cools, it'll draw it in and kind of have it sealed a little bit. But once again, this is not officially canning these jars. These will all go into the refrigerator, not a shelf. And I will use them up. Give them away or use them up, I'd say within a month. We're going to shoot for a month. Certainly not like long term by any stretch of the imagination. But, all right. So thank you for joining me today for my experimenting with cornstarch and pectin. Let me know if you have any suggestions or any help in how to cook these. This was my first time cooking with both of these together. I had done cornstarch before, but this is the first time I did cornstarch and then tried out pectin and try to compare the two. Let me know what your favorite is and maybe if there's a different fruit that you like to use. See you next time.